Today was the final day of the Bet Boom Dacha in Belgrade. 8 teams have entered, ready to throw down and see who would prevail. Normally these smaller events don't catch my interest, but we had a fair amount of top teams present here, notably Mouz, Team Spirit, Virtus Pro, Heroic, and you know what, Falcons, MIBR. I'll give you guys a shout this time, just this once. And with Mouz still on a fiery streak of events, just recently conquering the EPL, and Team Spirit most notably on a break since the major, I was curious to see how they duked it out on our way to IEM Dallas, the next big tournament on the calendar. And safe to say, though this tournament was short, it delivered in terms of what we were looking for. Mouz continued to dominate, Team Spirit looking strong despite the month-long break, and multiple other strong showings along the way from the rest in attendance. All of that culminated in a best-of-5 final between Mouz and Team Spirit, where Mouz would win their second event in a row, taking down Team Spirit in dominant fashion and truly establishing themselves as the clear #1 team in the world. So today we're going to start off first with talking about the grand final and all the narratives coming out of that, and then we'll take a step back, look big picture at the rest of the event and some of the more notable storylines coming out of it. So if you missed out on the action live, this is the #1 place to be for your CS2 tournament recaps. So before we get started, make sure you guys take a second, leave a like and a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. And while you are down there, consider becoming a channel member for $5 a month. You can support me directly in what we do here, gain access to exclusive emblems, emotes, access to new videos ahead of their release to the public, and a shout out in the description and at the end of every video. Which, by the way, small side note on that, going forward, I think tournament recaps are going to go up for everybody at the same time, as they're very timely content, but the rest of my regularly scheduled content will remain going up the night before for channel members and then live the next day for everyone else. Hopefully that makes sense. Tournaments are time sensitive. I think that's just the best way for everybody going forward. And lastly, check me out at my Twitch channel, link in the description down below. I stream Sunday through Friday, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And let's get started with the recap. Alright, let's start with the grand finals and work our way backwards. Coming out of the group stage, Mouz and Spirit topped both of their groups. They were both looking very dominant. They didn't lose a series, so they advanced straight through to the playoffs, where they calmly defeated their semifinal opponents, Team Spirit taking out the Falcons, and Mouz overwhelming Heroic. Also, one thing to keep in mind, this is the first tournament of any notoriety that's going to feature Dust 2 in the map pool, so then we'll cover more in a little bit. Moving into the map veto for this best-of-5 final, notably Spirit removed Inferno, which makes sense. It's not a map they're very good on, and Mouz are very, very good on it. And Mouz countered with the removal of Anubis, which makes sense. Anubis plays very strongly into Spirit's playstyle with how they like to utilize Donk on the T-sides, so why not just get it off the board? We end up going with a map 1 on Vertigo, picked by Mouz. Map 2 would be Ancient, picked by Spirit, followed by Mirage, picked by Mouz. Spirit would pick Nuke as the 4th map, leaving Dust 2 as the 5th decider map if we needed it. Spoiler alert, it was not needed. Starting off on Vertigo, the story of this map and of this entire series was Spirit's inability to get going on the first half. They lose the pistol here and proceed to only win 4 of their CT first half rounds, allowing Mouz to start off with early momentum, secure great economic control, and run off a high streak of rounds, leaving them with very wide margins of error in their second half to secure map victories. Falling behind like this early is the recipe for disaster if you're Team Spirit, as mounting huge second half comebacks is cumbersome in the current state of MR12, and made even harder when you're not able to generate some early momentum to get your star players feeling good and ready to tackle that kind of task. And those small advantages just tend to add up for a team like Mouz. They win 5 of 6 pistols across the 3 maps and hold Spirit to 11 first half rounds across 3 maps, which is just something you're not going to be able to overcome against a team as good as Mouz. Even if Donk goes off for ridiculous numbers, you're working from such a deficit in every game that clawing back those deficits is just not practical. Now, the big thing that let Mouz run up an 8-4 half to start off on T-side was their ability to be better as a team compared to what Spirit had on offer. They were able to absorb these big blows from Donk throughout the half because they knew that if they could get Donk to trade out, even if he got 2 or sometimes 3 kills, it wouldn't matter because Team Spirit didn't seem up to the task to back him up and finish off those rounds. Donk is very much the tip of the spear. Everything about Team Spirit relies on Donk being the first man in and them playing off of his ridiculous ability to take space. So here we'll flash forward deep into the map now. It's 11-11. And it's off the great play of Donk and his ability to open up early on the T side that Spirit have made this comeback possible. But now we're here at the climactic moment, and how does this round open up? Well, Team Spirit, they're going to try and take aggressive ramp control towards A. Brolin is tucked behind the sandbags, and as Spirit trying to make this push, they're going to get a really good shot at this. They're going to get ahead of Shuhei, Up on the construction side, they're going to make the push towards Brolin, but Brolin's going to pick Donk right away. And you know, he gets pressured out by nades, he's backed him up with a Molotov, and now the round has ground to a halt because Spirit can't take any more positive map control. Donk has died without any impact in the round, and he's the most aggressive player on the team. The rest of these guys simply don't seem to want to push nearly as hard as he does. Zontix, Shiro, Magix, they're more than comfortable playing back and allowing this round to just absolutely grind to a halt, giving Mouz all the time to play around the rotates, set up to hold off the A side at all costs, and just wait for Spirit to come to them because they don't have to move. Spirit are the ones that have to make a move towards the bomb site at some point, so why are Mouz going to try and push and throw away their initiative? Mouz plays incredibly calm, incredibly patient. They have the lurk over towards the B side, so they know that Spirit aren't going to rotate off of this. And at a certain point, Spirit just need to find a way to get the picks without the reliance on Donk's entries, and it seems like nobody's up to the task. And even though the round is going to slowly play out, they're going to manage to creep up, they're going to get the bomb plant. In the post-plant scenario, Mouz are just better man for man than what Spirit have left on the board. And it's going to come down to Xershin versus Magix in a 1v1. The bomb is planted, Magix is waiting, trying to bait out the defuse, and Xershin, like a true Chad, is just going to stick to defuse. Magix, he's too scared. He's not ready to take that 1v1, and he just sticks the defuse right in his face. It's that comfort, it's that calmness in the clutch that really sets Mouz aside. Even though Spirit did a great job of coming back on the T side, it just wasn't enough in the keyest moments, and that's why they go down 0-1 early, and we move to Ancient. From here on out, this would be a Mouz that is firmly in control of the rest of the series. Spirit would try their best, but at no point did they seem like they had the ability to counter what Mouz were doing on a large enough scale to take any kind of significant chunk out of Mouz. They were dominant from start to finish. And even though you look at a 13-9 scoreline on Ancient, like, oh, that's kind of competitive, that really undersells just how dominant Mouz were up until that point. It's a 9-3 CT half for Mouz. They convert pistol on T side and get match point right away, so it's a 12-3 scoreline. At that point, even though Spirit get out, they win their first gun run on CT side on the 4th round very convincingly. Mouz know that they have so much time on their hands, they have such a round deficit that they're fine. They can just play out those next few rounds. Even if they lose the next round, it's no big deal. They can eat a save. They can wait for Spirit to give them an opportunity to win the game. Even though Spirit runs off 6 straight rounds, as soon as they give an opening, Mouz strike. It's missed shots on the B site. It's Donk getting picked early and mid, and then the inability for Spirit to close out a 3v3 post-plant situation because the remaining 3 players aren't able to get any kind of control over the bomb site. They're not able to push. The defense for Mouz is just too locked down, and once Mouz have one shot at winning that match point, they take it convincingly to end the map. And listen, I haven't taken some time to talk about personal performance yet from Mouz, but it's because they're such a goddamn unit. Look at the scoreline here on this Ancient map. Jimfat, 19 kills. Brolin, 16 kills. Xershin, 18 kills. Shuhi with 15. Torji with 12. Torji's the worst performing player on the map, but even then, he's close to a 1.0 rating, had great impact with the op when he needed it, and the rest of the team works so well as a unit that they don't need an insane carry from Xershin to get over the line. Everyone's contributing, everyone's working towards the victories. This team is just so much greater than the sum of its parts. The team play is incredible. The team flashing, the support, the nade support, the ability to back each other up and get the trades. It's just clinical, efficient Counter-Strike. And then they have the benefit of players like Xershin, who's a top 5 player of the world. Players like Brolin, who can really take over in the clutch. Torji, who can be great on the op when he needs it. It's just such a well-oiled machine of a roster, and when you compare it to what Spirit have an incredible roster. But look at some of the things that tend to lag behind. Chopper, admittedly, he's an older in-game leader. He's not always going to be able to perform at the level you expected. Compared to Shuhi, who is a young IGL, who has shown time and time again that he can match the output of his fellow players and be a positive fragging presence on the server. That is such a huge difference to what the team can do as an output. When you look at the final score for the series, it says Shuhi led the team in frags. That is such a weight off your star player's shoulders. And then we move on to Mirage, the third and final stop in this best of 5, because Mouz, they hit the gas from the beginning of this Mirage map and didn't look back. Another 8-4 half, opening up with 6 straight rounds. And even though Spirit could hold themselves to win the last 3 rounds of the first half, Mouz calmly rotated to the CT side, take the pistol, take the next 4 rounds, and we're going home, boys. That's back-to-back championships for Mouz. Shuhi leads the final map with 21 kills, doing it himself, the in-game leader, top fragging with a 2.0 rating. Just absurdly dominant. And to get into some specifics, what I think was really cool about how Mouz approached Mirage is that if you watched Spirit in previous Mirage games, one thing they were very efficient at on the CT side was this mid control they would do, where Donk would push out a connector with flash and smoke support, push straight to top mid boxes, and shut down the T side ability to take that mid control and contest it with the ops, the AKs, try and push for cat control. No, none of that. Spirit would just lock it down and very efficiently close out the mid control, making it so the T side decide to hit the bomb sites way earlier than they probably would want to, and really cutting the map in half. Really hard to deal with when they're on point, but today Spirit were a little sloppy. The flash support wasn't there, the fragging support behind Donk certainly wasn't there, and Mouz were all over the place abusing the mid control so that they could ruin whatever site they decided to take thereafter. And overall, this is just what Mouz seem really well equipped to do. They take teams that are led by a single superstar, an absolute hyper carry, like Donk, like a Liege, like Zywoo, and they abuse those lineups by picking apart everything around the margins. They accept the fact that there's a certain number of rounds where Donk is just going to win them himself. They say that, alright, that's fine, we can't control that. But if Donk only gets 2 kills and dies, well then we're going to bet that the rest of the players behind him can't pick up the pieces and win those rounds when man to man we are outmatching them everywhere except in the Donk matchup. And like I've said before, the way they do this really does remind me of Astralis. Just this overwhelming force where they know that you can't beat all 5 of us with just one guy going off. You need to outplay us as a team. We'll take the bet that you may outplay us as individuals, but can you beat us in the team play? No, you cannot. And that's why they're going back-to-back tournaments, EPL, Bet Boom, and they're going to go to IM Dallas, and for me, they should be the favorites to win there, because they're on an incredible run of form, and no one else seems to be able to step up to the plate and shut them down consistently enough to take maps off them. Alright, let's talk some broad strokes about the tournament here. First things first, my MVP for this tournament would be Shuhi. He was the leading fragger for Mouz throughout the series and dominated on the third map Mirage, and his shot calling was just far superior along the way. That combination of being able to IGL, mid-round call, and still be a positive in the server with the rifle in your hands is just elite that few players have ever reached, and for me, that makes him worthy of taking home the MVP trophy. I believe for the event it is going to go to Donk, as he was the highest rated player at the tournament overall with a 1.47 rating. However, I still stand by that MVP should go to the player on the winning team, because how can you be the most valuable player if you didn't win? But that's just my personal opinion. If they give it to Donk, that's not a big deal. Talking broad strokes, let's talk about the map pool of this event. This, of course, is the first event to feature Dust 2 in the pool with notable teams in attendance, and across 32 maps played at the event, we had 8 Vertigo games, 6 Dust 2 games, 6 Mirage games, 5 on Ancient, 4 on Anubis, and 3 on Nuke. I'm very interested about the fact that Vertigo seems to only be getting played more and more as time has gone on. If you look over HLTV and your stats for the last 6 months or even the last year, Vertigo was in the middle towards the back of the pool in terms of how much is being played. But as you get closer and closer to current time, Vertigo keeps going upward and upward, and if you sort by big events and the last month of play, Vertigo is actually the most frequently played map in the pool, with 36 maps being played, with Nuke right behind it at 35 and Ancient at 33. So why is Vertigo trending upward? Well, I think 1, again, we haven't had time for Dust 2 to seed itself into the map pool properly, and then 2, Inferno has only gone downward, and Overpass was also trending downward, especially as soon as the patch came out. It just seems that despite it not being well liked by really anybody, people are fine choosing Vertigo if it means they don't have to play Inferno, or even Anubis it seems most of the time, which I find interesting because I think Anubis is the better map. I don't know. So then how did Dust 2 fare at this event? Well, 3 of the times it was played by Mouz. Mouz won all 3 times, and honestly, it was kind of hard to gauge. I think we saw a lot of what we would expect, where T-sides were definitely more favorable than CT sides. Overall, across 6 maps played, there ended up being a 54% T-side round win rate, which I think is about what we expected. I don't think there's been enough time yet for teams to develop a whole lot of new strategies. It seems like B-side still remains underdeveloped, so I think it's far too early to tell where Dust 2 sits in the map pool. However, I do think we will see teams prefer to play it over Inferno and Anubis most likely. My question is, will it actually start to outpace Vertigo or not? Because I feel like some teams are going to prefer it over Vertigo, especially if you have a strong opping presence, but I do think teams are not going to be very likely to pick up Dust 2 as like suddenly the most played map. I think in reality it'll sit in kind of the middle back half of the map pool, and I'm curious to see how it gets played at the next tournament, IM Dallas. Alright, let's take a second to talk about some of the other teams at this event. Heroic continue to look interesting to me. Dexter has looked fantastic in all the games that I've seen him play, but it feels like the rest of the team around him is very inconsistent. It's hard to say what Heroic need to take that next step. I feel like they're really missing a good, competent, like world-class in-game leader, but also I'm really concerned about the overall fragging. Dexter, again, has looked fantastic, but who's going to step up behind him to be that true second star player that you really need to elevate your team to the next level? I don't know who that could be, especially when you consider free agency just doesn't really have a whole lot on offer right now. I would say the biggest disappointment out of this tournament for me was Virtus Pro. Outside of Mouz and Spirit, the rest of this field is very vulnerable, and you should be vying for that spot high up in the bracket trying to make a playoff push. But instead, you know, you beat the Falcons 2-0, great. You immediately lose to Mouz, and then in the follow-up series against the Falcons, you lose a best of 3 to them. I do not think the Falcons should be beating you guys. I think on paper you're the much better lineup, but then you look at your players for this event, and you have Electronic and Jame both at the bottom in terms of your performances. It was Fame and Flit having to do most of the work here. Jame barely maintains a 1.0 rating for the tournament, and Electronic is disastrous, a 0.96 with a negative 21 kill differential. That's just not enough. Electronic is supposed to be the game changer, the star player that reinvigorates and reinvents how this team looks, and I'm starting to point the finger at Jame here. I think him as IGL is holding this team back. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it. Gamer Legion has Snacks, proving himself over and over to be a competent and blossoming IGL right before our eyes. I think Virtus Pro should be doing everything in their power to get Snacks on this team. And I think maybe you just end up benching Norbert, taking the hit, putting Norbert on the bench, you slot in Snacks as IGL, you move Jame back as just a primary opper and star player, and you re-unleash Electronic as the lead aggressor for this team alongside Fame, and suddenly Virtus Pro are a threat. I think Virtus Pro will instantly overnight become a much better team if you make that happen. There's not much else that I can really take away from the tournament at this point. Nothing else really stands out to me. Falcons continue to look kind of just middling. Sun Pius is the best part of this team by far, but Dupree and Magus, just to me, they seem like they're washed up. I don't really think this team is anywhere near as good as they were expecting to be. Turns out you can't just throw around money and build a super team, but hey, what do I know? Other than that, Mouz, great win. I think Spirit, they look great. They just ran to the better team at the end of the day in the finals, and now we need to set our sights forward for IM Dallas. If you guys enjoyed the coverage, make sure you leave a like a comment, and subscribe to the channel down below. Shout out to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, and Furley for helping keep the lights on. You consider becoming a member, get access to my regular videos ahead of time, the night before they go for everyone else. And also you get shouted at in every video just like this, and emblems, emotes, all that good stuff. So do it. Check me out on Twitch, description down below, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.